Hey, what's up? Welcome to another edition of The Mandatory. Remember, if you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media channels, and you'll see on the screen, if you're watching this on YouTube, the ways that you can connect with us. Also, if you're listening to this on the audio side, you can find us on the audio side as well. It'll be in the description as well. And give us a 5-star, leave a rate and review. That helps the channel grow. And if you've been rocking with us, we do appreciate you. Lots to get into on this episode. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Muratalla and Cruz. We're going to be breaking that down, giving you our picks for that fight. Also, we're going to be talking about the Ali Act, because some big news there that could really, really change boxing. And that happened in Senate. So Congress made a decision. And so that is absolutely massive. But Bryan, what are your thoughts this week, just in terms of all the boxing news that's come out?
I'm worried for a lot of things in this sport, as you know, and I try not to be doom and gloom because I try to be optimistic about things. But I mean, I guess, look, it's in the eye of the beholder. It depends on what you believe. But there are certain things going on with, like, we have Zuffa coming in this week, and then you have a decision on the new reformed Ali Act with some amendments that is going to move to the House floor, and it's going to pass,
Yeah.
like, because of all the money that TKO is spending to make it pass, so that they can attack boxing the way that they want to. And then on top of that, you just have, like, this really underrated fun fight potentially with Raymond Muratalla and Andy Cruz that has an undercard featuring, like, among others, Omari Jones.
Yes.
That's worth talking about. Like, there's a lot of things going on. We got some comments. We're gonna get to that too. We should just go with the Zuffa, which will tie into the Ali Revival Act stuff right away.
Yeah. Let's just get into it right away, actually. And by the way, this is our new time, y'all. Thursday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. Got that a little bit mixed up there. But remember, it's going to be every Thursday. So you'll be able to catch us at this time on YouTube. But let's get into the Zuffa Boxing. And yeah, it debuts this Friday. And the big main fight is a middleweight bout, 10 rounds. Callum Walsh and Carlos Ocampo.
Yeah.
Are you excited? What? Like, this is the main event, Bryan. Are you hyped for this?
No, I'm not, if I'm being totally honest. I'll put it to you this way. If I can't, I don't know why can't I see the comments here, but I could see them here, so it's fine. Ahejous, Ahejos. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It shares my sentiment.
He says boo Zuffa, boo. He also says down with Dana. Okay. Jesus, good friend of the show, 2159. Zuffa is competition that boxing to keep promoters, boxers on their toes. Competition is always good in the business of sports. The Ali Act has a lot to do with this, so we're gonna break that down.
It's not competition. It's a full-blown takeover. Competition is one thing. Competition is like AEW to WWE, although I wouldn't even consider that real competition. They're trying to be a WWE, which means the club shows and the mid-tier, like, all that is they're gonna get rid of all that shit, or just bring them to Zuffa, or a combination of both. Okay, so the UFC Apex. This is where the fight is going to be. Apparently called the Meta Apex now because of some,
Oh,
brand partnership, whatever the fuck. But that's like there's like a 5-year deal there that sort of outlines that. So we're going to share a screen here and look at the event itself. This is at the Apex going on. The Apex. If you don't watch UFC, it's essentially like an empty arena.
yeah,
They're selling tickets like for like a few rows or whatever, just around the ring, so to speak, that are very expensive, like hundreds of dollars and
really, yeah.
more. Also, that so it's like it's gonna invite only turkey vibes, right? It's gonna be invite only. You're going to have the same energy that you have for Times Square, if not potentially worse. And it's going to sound awkward. And boxing has more lulls than MMA does usually, um, because of the strategic element of it, and you could only use your hands. Whereas in MMA, you could do a lot of other things. Which is to say, it might sound more quiet in the Apex than a typical MMA fight would. But regardless, as expected, Callum Walsh is here in the main event fighting Carlos Ocampo, as you mentioned. Carlos Ocampo, most famously, knocked out by Errol Spence in round one several years ago and lost to Sebastian Fundora by a one-sided decision a few years ago. More recent than that, but not super recent. He's on another winning streak, and he's built up to this. Dana White loves Callum Walsh. Dana White and Tom Loeffler have a relationship. Tom Loeffler used to promote Triple G. Tom Loeffler has been promoting with 360 Promotions. Callum Walsh and Kane Sandoval are two of the guys that he's had on his stable who were fighting on UFC Fight Pass boxing cards. And it was a foregone conclusion that Callum Walsh and, to a lesser degree, Kane Sandoval would be big, like highly featured in this Zuffa Boxing experiment. So Kane Sandoval, you see it here. He's not going to be the main event. It's just the highest ranked fight on BoxRec, but he's fighting Julian Rodriguez, who actually just got a nice win over, I believe, Avius Griffin. Yeah, over Avius Griffin, once lost to Jose Pedraza some years ago. So you have a bunch of prospects here. Floyd Diaz, who we've talked about. I honestly don't think he's all that, but he's super flashy, and some people find him interesting. He has no power, but he can box. Omar Trinidad, who's also fought on these 360 Promotions cards that Tom Loeffler does. Robert Merriweather, who came out and shilled for this entire product that Max Kellerman posted without context on Twitter, and people just called Max Kellerman a shill, and they're right. So this is what we're dealing with, Shantelle. What are your thoughts on, I guess, all of this and the card itself? Are you excited to watch this on Paramount Plus or potentially somewhere else? You're on mute. Nice.
Well, that's how I feel about it. No, but I am gonna check it out. I am definitely gonna check it out just to see what it's about. But I'll say this: they've been trying to really push Callum Walsh for a very, very long time. Like Callum Walsh is supposed to be the face of this thing, so they really believe in him. He's 15-0. I believe he's got a pretty good knockout ratio, but they've been trying to push this guy for a minute. He has 11 knockouts. Yes, and I do remember that fight against Fernando Vargas, which was probably the one where he gained a little bit of prestige. But this is a fight for Zuffa that they're putting on that they want all eyes on them. I'm not very hype about the card. I could care less. But I just want to see how it looks like in terms of a broadcast, what it's going to look like. And so that's more of the more entertaining part for me. And listen, they might give us some good fights here. We don't know. But I think the bigger thing is just the Ali Act and how this ties into the Ali Act. But this card to me doesn't really mean like I have to sit at home and have a fight party. But Callum Walsh is going to be the face of this thing. That's the only thing that I really have to say about that, Brian.
Of note, on February 1st, which that's a Sunday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And it's also not going to be conference championship week, or is it?
No, it's the break before the Super Bowl.
That's the Pro Bowl? Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, I don't even know if the Pro Bowl is going to, I mean, it's not a Pro Bowl anymore, but you get it. The Pro Bowl games or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
So Rayo Valenzuela is going to fight on the second card. Remember, the deal with Paramount is at least 12 boxing events per year, and it looks like they're going back-to-back weeks already. Don't know when the next ones are going to be, but they did sign Jayo Pitaya, which was a big deal for many people. And reportedly, they're in talks. Zuffa is with Alexander Usyk, and I think people are like, "Hey, okay, if they signed them, who are they going to fight?" I don't know if Dana White's gonna dare put them to fight each other, but I
Yeah.
suppose that's an option. Regardless, I don't. Jaya Pataya, they're saying so. Jaya Pataya has said, "Hey, I want to unify all the titles at cruiserweight." And then he signs with Zuffa, and then people are on social media saying, like, wait, I thought he wanted to unify. And
Yeah.
then and then reports came out like the Zuffa side is like, oh, wait. No, he'll be able to unify. We'll allow him to do it, whatever. And that basically tells me, like, yeah, they'll allow him to unify and then come back to Zuffa and like make the belts mean nothing. Like he can fucking
Yeah.
throw them in the trash, like they did in the '90s with the WWE Women's Title. Or yeah, with I think Medusa did it when she went to WCW. So yeah, we'll see. This is Friday Night Fights ish. That seems like what they're trying to recreate, which is cool. But ultimately, it's about what's going on all the way up here, so many levels above, like what's going on in the ring.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting, but nonetheless, like Dana White and Turk are trying to take over boxing. Like, Brian, do you have anything else to say about this card before we go into the Ali Act? Because I really don't.
No, yeah, Alexa Berto G64644 says Mark Kriegel signed with Zuffa too. I mean, yeah, look, there are certain people where it's like, where else are you gonna go?
Yeah. So,
If you want to do this, this Top Rank doesn't have a deal. Golden Boy seems to be done with the zone. PBC
yeah.
is hanging on by a thread with Amazon. Apparently, Dave Benavidez fight is going to be on Amazon Prime, but like that's all the way in May. Like,
Yeah.
this is what TKO wants. They want to monopolize the whole thing, and it's the perfect time for them because everyone else can't even put together shows consistently. Xander Zayas is going to fight him. He's going to do the fucking Top Rank Classics bullshit. They're not even putting that on YouTube.
Yeah. So, the thing with this that's really interesting is, listen, this is a big deal. This is a big deal for Zuffa because they have CBS, they have Paramount Plus, they have a big deal. They're going to push it well, but everyone else is kind of falling apart. And this is what Zuffa wants. This is what Dana White wants. He wants control. And so Jesus said, Shantelle, wait, let me just get to this comment right here. He says, Shantelle, Zuffa on Friday is what ESPN had on Friday with which is what ESPN had with Top Rank. Basically something stopping a Debbie Downer. When you realize what this is connected to, it's bigger than just Zuffa on Friday. It's bigger than just having
Right.
competition. Like so let's break that down, Brian, because I think we went through the card. Not that exciting. I think Callum Walsh is not as good as they're promoting him to be also. And the tier of fighters in Zuffa, like a lot of these guys aren't like the best in their weight classes yet, because now there's going to be control that Dana has. And this is the interesting part about it. Because the Ali Act, there were some changes made to the Ali Act, Brian.
Yeah.
And this just happened in Congress. And so, as you know, Dana White was trying to get the Ali Act to like go away, essentially, right? To make amendments on it.
Yeah.
The old one. Yeah. So essentially, the original Ali Act obviously is to protect boxers' rights and to keep the sport fair. And also it kind of levels the playing field in terms of promoters, right? But the Ali Act that essentially Dana White put into Congress, that he wanted to change, is he wanted to create unified boxing organizations. Okay, so they're called UBOs. So with UBOs, you have to have a certain number of things to like be approved as a UBO. So you have to have your own training facility. You have to have a certain number of things that you have to check off a box. And if you're a smaller promoter like Salida Promotions, you can't have a UBO. Okay, so what that's going to do is that's going to X out the smaller promoters, meaning that Dana White and Zuffa is going to have all of this power. But also, if you're not part of this UBO, and say, for example, say if Brian's a part of Zuffa, right? and I'm a part of Top Rank, right?
Thanks.
No matter what, we cannot fight each other.
Right.
That's what Dana White is saying. So Dana White's also saying, yo, if you want to fight and I have a UBO you have to come over here and fight. And also, it's gonna make the pay for fighters a lot less.
Over
You know how
time, yeah.
yeah, you know what happens in the UFC, right? I think their like revenue share is like 19%. They're getting robbed. The boxers are going to start to get robbed. But Brian, go ahead, take it away. But that's just a little bit. It's the thing about it is there's so many small things that are connected to this Ollie Act, and it's a lot to it. But that's kind of the gist of it. If you want like a dumbed down version.
So this passed, and it's going to go to the House committee. Um, 30 votes to 4, 19 Republicans, 11 Democrats, one of whom being the most progressive among them, Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, who's honestly dealing with a lot of shit right now. I'm surprised she has time to deal with this, given like the attacks on her on a daily basis. Um, but she is a boxing fan legitimately. She proposed some amendments that made the, if you want to call it the final version of this, less bad, although it's still not great. I think again, like we've talked about this before, bad from the standpoint of like what's to come and if you care about like how boxers are treated and things of that nature. But part of the problem with this is like as grim as this looked for the boxers themselves, it's not like any of the boxers came up to speak out against it or testify or say that they know what the fuck is going on and understand what the fuck is going on. Like you had a few guys like Nico Ali Walsh being like, yeah, I oppose this, but ultimately Lonnie Ali, Muhammad Ali's widow, is there and she's in favor of what's about to happen. And I don't know what her business agreement is with like the WWE or TKO conglomerate, but the WWE has like given her a belt before in the past. To what Shantelle was just saying, like with the WWE, it's the same thing. You can't wrestle outside of the WWE promotion unless they own that promotion or have a working agreement with that promotion, like they do now with the AAA in Mexico or Evolve or TNA. Obviously NXT, which is their developmental ground. But like you can't go and wrestle outside of that, except for like a really, really, really special case, unless there's already a working agreement there. So if you're a Zuffa fighter, you're a Zuffa fighter. Just like right now, if you fight for the UFC, you can't, while under contract, go and fight somebody at one championship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or the PFL or formerly like Bellator when they actually existed. So it is what it is from that standpoint. Now, in terms of the actual changes, MMA fighting, among many other places, did a good job of just sort of rounding this up. Also, as I mentioned, 30 to 4 in terms of like voting for this to move
Yeah.
forward. The 4 people who didn't were Joe Courtney from Connecticut, Frederica Wilson from Florida, who's in her 80s, which I thought was interesting, Suzanne Bonamici from Oregon, and Mark Takano from California, all Democrats. Tim Wahlberg from Michigan, who's a Republican, who I don't know if her and Ilhan Omar made some concessions with one another here, but basically voted to or introduced legislation rather to increase the proposed, minimum payments per round from $150 to $200 minimum, expanding the proposed minimum medical coverage from 25K to 50K, and updating the proposed timelines and frequency of requirements for mandatory medical testing, including eye exams, blood work, brain health testing, related evaluations, which you would read that and be like, okay, it sounds cool. Also, 2 doctors and 2 ambulances at all times have to be on site, and also like more anti-doping testing,
Yeah.
testing for all title fights and for at least half of the fights on any card, which basically means boxing at like the mid-tier level, like the club shows, like for example, what you would see in New York City with Sony Hall and Boxing Insider Promotions, and what you would see, in other parts of the world, and like Jersey with Thomas Lamana, and other parts of the world, like in California or just outside in other places, it's probably going to fade away or be
Yeah.
much much harder to do, because if you're in a club fighting level, and that's important, that's like the backbone of your sport, like that's where guys go to develop. Ultimately, they're trying to get rid of that with this, so that Zuffa can just get all of, like, if we pull up the card again, like look at all the guys here. These are club fighters slash prospects who would be fighting on those shows as opposed to this one. And you would say, well, Brian, isn't that a good
Yeah.
thing? And I would say, like, look, if you're getting rid of all the club fighting, levels of boxing potentially, that means they all have to go to Zuffa. And if they all have to go to Zuffa, I mean, they don't have to. You have a choice, but you get what I'm saying. Like, if you really want to make progress, there's only one place to go. And if there's one place to go and you have limited options, it's ultimately not good because not everyone's going to get taken care of. You're going to have too big of a roster. And on top of that, it's going to make one dominant force in the sport like the UFC, which is not good for MMA because
Yeah.
MMA elsewhere, like where are all the successful MMA promotions outside of the UFC that people talk about? Because when people talk about MMA, they say I watch UFC. They don't say I watch MMA. So
Yeah.
eventually, we might get to the point where people are like, I watch Zuffa. I watch Zuffa boxing. I don't watch like just boxing. If there's even able to be boxing
Other boxing.
Beyond Zuffa and Saudi at that point.
Yeah. So another thing that is very important is that the promoters could control rankings and titles, right? So that breaks the core part of the original Ali Act as well. That's designed to prevent conflicts of interest in terms of like manipulating fight rankings and title fights. Because if they're doing the rankings just for Zuffa, that might not be the real rankings. You know,
Correct.
like so they're going to be manipulating that. Fighters are also going to lose leverage in terms of negotiating power. They're not going to have that. They're also going to get lower pay, right? And so, as much as people might want one system where there's only one belt for heavyweight, or there's one belt for welterweight, etc., that's they're going to have the UFC model here, but
Mhm.
the rankings are not going to be real. That's the thing. It's going to
They're
be
gonna have their own
Zuffas.
rankings.
It's going to be Zuffas, right?
Yeah.
So all in all, like you might like Zuffa boxing, and hey, it might be entertaining. But what they're doing is they're trying to control the sport, and when one person controls absolutely everything, I feel like that's when things can start to get ruined,
Yeah.
and it's not good for boxing. This is not a good day for boxing, in my opinion. And whoever is supporting this is probably getting greased or something. Like, let's be real here, right? Like, Dana White also has a lot of people in some very high places. He knows a lot of people.
Listen, yeah, like here's the thing. Dana White came out and said this week because he was asked about, oh, his affiliation with basically the White House and the White House card that's coming up with the UFC. And he was like, well, George Bush loved baseball and Barack Obama loved basketball.
Yeah.
And he's like, Trump loves the UFC. And it's like, you're going to him and to the government to make this bill a thing so that you can run your business. Like Obama and Bush weren't doing that. Like
Yeah.
even Bush didn't go to MLB baseball and was like, yo, I'm trying to start this other thing. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
not Bush, but like Bud Selig, I guess at the time, didn't go to George Bush and was like, I'm gonna start this. I wanna like get rid of like every other base. I want to get rid of the minors, whatever. Like whatever. Like Obama wasn't like, yo, I'm gonna start this other basketball league. So I
Yeah.
want to put the NBA out of business.
Listen,
Uh,
we're
I mean, Adam Silver, but like, yeah, it's ridiculous. So it's not an apples to apples comparison. And just real quick, more on the legislation front. Ilhan Omar again was probably the most left out of everyone here who also voted to approve this because she got some amendments taken care of. And
mhm.
honestly, you never know if like she just has other shit to deal with. So I'm like, I don't know how much this is going to be a focus given everything that's going on in her state right now and how ICE is basically terrorizing the entire state of Minnesota. Mandating boxers be in contracts for no longer than 6 years. So it could be less, but no longer than 6 years. Also having them have to fight at least every 6 months. If you're injured, you're injured. So that's a like special case, but trying to have boxers be active so that they can be paid, as well as we talked about, the $200 per round here, establishing that in the absence of bout within any 6 month period, a boxer is entitled to compensation equal to 10 times the minimum per round compensation of $200. And then this other detail, updating the proposed free agency provisions to allow boxers beginning 30 days prior to the expiration of their contracts to initiate uh, contact with other UBOs or promoters. So there's an answer to this, Chantel, that's interesting that I think is worth talking about. and maybe everyone's hand gets forced here, but what if, and I wouldn't call this likely, but if Top Rank, PBC, Golden Boy, not so much Matchroom because they could just do everything in the UK, but maybe them too. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like they can form a UBO. Like
Yeah.
they can form a UBO and just keep the sanctioning bodies the way they are. Although the sanctioning bodies, part of the reason we've gotten here is because they've been very inconsistent. There was another rule that came out that passed through where the sanctioning bodies could only have, or each organization rather, could only have one title per weight class, which I actually like because I'm tired of like regular champion, super champion, interim champion nonsense. Um, but what do you think of that possibility? Like, is that something you would be for if like Top Rank, PBC, Golden Boy actually, like, given their situation, actually got together and was like, hey, we could form our own UBO and be an
Yeah.
alternative to this? And then you have like a WWE, WCW situation going on.
The only thing is there's too many egos, and
That's
everyone
true.
wants, like, if you think about it, everyone wants to be the promoter, everyone wants to be that guy. And let's be serious, like sometimes these promoters can't even put fights together because they're beefing. So for them to all come together to form a UBO, I would feel like would be such a long shot. I just don't see that happening, Brian, because of egos, because of money, because of power, and just because of like how men are and their egos. Like I just don't I don't see it
Right.
happening. Right? Like I feel like that's so far fetched. So but I mean that would be the smartest thing to do, but I just don't see it happening. So I think what's going to happen, and we're gonna see the change happen with between now, maybe even before 5 years, but boxers are gonna be forced to join Zuffa. That's what's going to happen, Brian. And especially with TV deals and networks not wanting to get into the business of boxing. And then Zuffa has this huge deal with Paramount Plus and CBS. It's going to change a lot of things. The fact that Top Rank does not have a deal. Top rank fighters might go to Zuffa, Brian. The ones that are running out of deals. Like this is the perfect time for Zuffa as well. If you think about
Yeah.
it, for their pros, they're right now, the moment for them is perfect. Let's get to our $5 donation right here. If you donate to the show, we go to it right away. I don't know how to pronounce that, Brian. I'll let you take it. Alex.
Oh, Alexa Alberto. Okay.
Okay, Alex
Or
Alberto.
Alex
There we
Alberto. My bad. Alex Alberto. Oh, Alex Alberto says, you could tell us how to say it like properly if you want. Super chat. Thank you for that. As always, WBC, IBF, WBO, and WBA all take bribes to put unknown fighters in the top 15. What I'll say to that is I don't think we had a good system pre Zuffa. I also don't think Zuffa is a solution. I think the whole thing needs to be torn down and we just start over, like
go. Yeah.
start from scratch. Like it's a bit of a radical idea, I'm sure, but at the same time, like that's just where I think we're at right now. Um, this thing is still covering my face.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I can't look at the comments, so you're gonna have to pull up the comments because like for some reason it's not working for me. But like yeah, I think because the WBC, IBF, WBO, and WBA failed, we need to tear this whole thing down and start over. I don't think Zuffa Boxing is a solution. I think it's an opportune time for them to come in and do what they're going to do and try to take over the sport and monopolize it the way that TKO has, obviously, with the WWE. And frankly, the WWE did that before TKO. TKO is just accelerating it. And then what UFC has done in mixed martial arts, I think that's what Zuffa is trying to do here. But I don't think that's a solution to what the sanctioning bodies have created. I think the whole thing needs to be torn down. But I know realistically, like that's not going to happen. It's just going to be a gradual Zuffa Boxing takeover. We'll see what happens with the other major promotions, your top
Yeah.
ranks, your PBCs, and obviously your Golden Boys. And then we'll see what even happens with Matchroom. But unless they come together and figure something out, it's just going to be Zuffa taking over for better or for worse. And I guess the better or worse depends on what you believe in. I've told you what I think. I don't think this is going to be great for a lot of different reasons, but we are where we are. And there's frankly no stopping it, it appears.
Yeah, let's get to some comments about this. Jesus 2159 says there is Rising, one championship, K1, and
Ryzen,
many,
once, yeah.
yeah, K1 and many other European MMA promotions that make good money. But eventually, if you want more money, then UFC is the path. I think MMA and boxing is totally different though, right? Because
One championship also isn't doing that well.
yeah,
Like I don't, I can't speak for all the MMA promotions overseas, but people who cover MMA are like, yeah, they're not doing but so well. And even the UFC has kind of tailed off a bit. If you watch Dana White in his interviews, like he doesn't really sound super enthusiastic about UFC. I think he cares more about this at this point and making this work. Like this is a new challenge for him,
of
whereas UFC
course.
is kind of plateaued and it's like whatever at this point. Honestly,
Yeah,
the UFC is promoting this more than their own fucking fight that's coming up,
yeah.
their
All right,
own card.
let's get to the next comment. I'm sorry to say I'm on Team Zuffa. I hope my fellow boxing fans come around eventually and enjoy the fights. There's going to be people that support Zuffa for sure. And we're probably going to watch some of the Zuffa fights, but when you think about what's going to happen in boxing, it might not be the best thing for the sport, especially when one person has control and then money's a factor and then all these other smaller promotions are getting x'd out. So that's the only thing, and it takes away a lot of fighters' rights. So it's not good for the boxers as well. Um, let's take another comment. Jesus, fake Nello, King Riot are in a title bout off losses. Enough said. Yeah, I mean, that's true. Like people do get title fights and they've lost. So, I mean, that happens,
I
but
mean, I think that's bullshit too. Like I've said that.
yeah.
I think Ryan Garcia, the fact that he, first of all, it was bullshit that, and of the sanctioning bodies, you could argue credibly that the WBA is the worst in how they've handled things. Like Gervonta
Yeah.
Davis being a regular champion forever and not really fighting any mandatories. And then you have it just now he finally is not the champion anymore. They're going to have two other guys fight for the vacant title. It might be Lucas Body and Floyd Schofield. But then you have, for example, the Ryan Garcia thing. Him and Rolly Romero fighting for the welterweight title. Like, look, we said it here. I thought that was bullshit. I thought that was one of the worst like fights to make for a title, considering that out of nowhere these two guys get ranked top two or whatever it was in a weight class that they've never fought in because they've never been welterweights. And all of a sudden they're fighting for a welterweight title. And at that point, it's like, what has Ryan Garcia done to earn this? And this is after the Devin Haney thing, right? And then
Yeah.
he fights for this title, loses, and now we're putting him in with Mario Barrios. Like, I think that's bullshit too. That's why I think the whole thing is fucked up. And how we got here was in combination to sanctioning bodies, but also it was just the segregation within the sport. Our guys fight on HBO, our guys fight on Showtime, and they were separate. Then eventually, you had guys fighting only on ESPN, guys fighting only, and you didn't get fights where people were, actually combining, other than like Mayweather, Pacquiao. Like you had some select few examples, but for the most part, like we didn't get to see Terrence Crawford versus Keith Thurman or Danny Garcia or whatever because people were on quote unquote different sides of the street. And that's what led us here. And now what I'm saying is I don't think Zuffa is a solution because who Zuffa will win over are people, and some of whom watch this are people who just care about the fights and they're like, yo, they're gonna give us like 50-50 fights. And obviously everyone wears their best shit on the first day of school. They're gonna come out the gate and make some interesting fights or whatever.
Yeah.
But over time, which is what we're talking about here, as we've seen what's happened to the UFC, and while they've grown in popularity, they've plateaued. Their fighters are not getting paid that well, but also their fighters aren't, not enough of them are speaking out about this because they don't even realize the harm that's being done to them. And a lot of boxers don't either. I don't think a lot of boxers are going to be politically savvy either to go up in Congress and try to testify for their own rights. So they didn't. So like we are where we are, and the whole sport, as we know, the boxing's been corrupted for a lot of different years. I think this is just another form of corruption that's coming, and that's evidenced by them getting the U.S. government involved to try to pass this legislation.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have much else to say about it except because the more we talk about it and the more that's going to come out about it, we're going to see how the sport's going to change and like dominoes are going to fall and there's going to be a lot of smaller promotions that are not going to exist anymore. And people are going to be forced to go to Zuffa. But let's get to Salome, who says, it's pathetic. These corrupt sanctioning bodies were asking for it. Salome also says, even these athletic commissions are corrupt. A blind Margarito got cleared to fight in New York. Yeah, like, listen, like, boxing is corrupt. We know this, right? Like, we see it. We see people get robbed in broad daylight in fights. Like, we see this all the time. But to say that one person having the entire control over the sport, I don't think that's a good thing. And unless, like Bryan said, these other promotional companies come together and form a UBO, which I don't think is going to happen, boxing's in a very tough state, and I don't think it's for the good. Bryan, any final thoughts on this before we move on?
There's a lot more to this, even than there's more to this even than we're talking about. It's just like, are you interested in us reading documents for the rest of the show? Like we have we have another
Yes.
thing to get to. But like, yeah, this is going to be an ongoing thing. Also, as we every time we talk about this, we end with, this is going to be an ongoing thing. This isn't going away. This still has to go through the House, still has to go through even higher levels. It'll eventually get signed, and then we can talk about it when it's done and what it actually looks like when it's over.
But the
Um,
30 the 30 yay says a lot to me. Like
yeah,
the 30 yay says a lot to me. Like I do believe this will get past Bryan.
yeah. There's no doubt. There's
Yeah.
no doubt. Like again, I think Ilhan Omar is kind of like the only person who probably I thought would have pushed for things harder. She did get some amendments, but I think
Yeah.
you also probably are in that position. You realize, all right, for this one, the writing's on the wall. We have to move on to the next thing, and look at all the things that not to defend politicians here, but if you look at all these things that like they have to account for, I don't know how high boxing is on the list. Just being honest, right? Like, and I don't know how many of them actually know boxing, right? Like, she probably knows more about boxing than most of the people in there, but at the same time, it's like, listen, there were some amendments that passed, so this doesn't look as daunting as it probably once did. Or maybe you're somebody who only cares about the fights and you're just like, whatever with this shit. So we'll talk about Raymond Muratalla versus Andy Cruz right now.
Yeah, let's get to it because listen, the one thing I will say is we're going to have this conversation continued on the show, and we're probably never going to stop talking about it
Yeah,
because more stuff will come out every time, maybe every month. But we're going to come back next week and talk about what we saw in Zuffa. So drop
that's
your
true.
comments. Let us know what you think about the Ali Act reform, and let us know what you think about Zuffa. But a big fight coming up, way better than the Zuffa card. Raymond Muratalla and Andy Cruz are going to be getting it on. And Bryan, what are your thoughts on this card itself, though? Like, are you excited for any of the other fights? Amari Jones, I'm a big fan of, and if you haven't seen Amari Jones fight yet, you need to see him fight. He's the real deal.
We'll take some more comments at the end of the show also. Because this is gonna be this. I'm hoping this isn't a 20-minute segment because I don't got 20 minutes on Andy Cruz versus Raymond
I don't
Muratalla.
either.
I don't think Raymond Muratalla is like the best champion in the lightweight division necessarily. I think Andy Cruz, who is favored to win this, by the way, not by a ton, but he's favored by a pretty decent amount. Last I checked, it was like 3-1 ish. I think Andy Cruz wins this fight. I just think he's too slick, too good. Has a
Yeah.
little more pop than you probably think. Not you, Shantelle, obviously, but like than the casual fan might think. I wouldn't call him a knockout artist or whatever. Um, but he's clearly really skilled, really talented. I know he wants to fight Keyshawn Davis. Looks like Keyshawn Davis might be moving to 147. We'll talk about Keyshawn Davis next week because there's next week's going to be loaded. There's Shakur and Teofimo. There's
Can't wait.
the return of Jermaine Ortiz, who's going to fight Keyshawn Davis. You got Bruce Carrington. You got Xander Zayas. You got Bakram Murtazaliev and Josh Kelly. So yeah, but this is solid. Like Israel Madrimov has proved himself at the highest level of boxing, taking it to both Virgil Ortiz and Terrence Crawford, losing
Yeah.
very close fights. Khalil Coe and Jesse Hart. It's actually a fun light heavyweight potential banger. Two
Yeah.
guys who are flawed but interesting. Omari Jones looks sensational. He's actually fighting an undefeated prospect in Jerome Baxter. And then, other than that, like probably from there it falls off a cliff a little bit. Although I think Zakeen Moses is pretty good. It's funny enough, like I do think if it wasn't for Eddie Hearn, I would look at some of the undercard here and be like, oh, they might all wind up with Zuffa. But
Hey,
Eddie Hearn might be okay for a little bit in comparison to some of the other guys.
Yeah, Raymond Muratalla and Andy Cruz. This is a fight I've actually been waiting for. I think I'm going to be very entertained for Raymond Muratalla. I think he has to get off to an early start. The thing with him, it's about high output, right? So he has to get to Andy Cruz's body. He can't let Andy Cruz get comfortable. But the thing is, I just think Andy Cruz's IQ and his skill is far more better than Raymond Muratalla, and he's a little bit more slick up top, like you said. And so I think if Andy Cruz can keep the fight in the center of the ring and, continue to land, use the jab, which he does, I think he has a pretty good jab. I'm taking Andy Cruz to win this fight over Raymond Muratalla by decision. I think it goes to the cards. I think the only way that Raymond Muratalla is going to win is if he does have that high work rate, but also like I think he has to knock out Andy Cruz because when I think it comes to skill, Andy Cruz is going to outskill him in this fight because Raymond Muratalla has to cut off the ring against Andy Cruz in this fight. And I don't think he's going to be able to do it, Brian.
Andy Cruz on DraftKings is minus 275. Raymond Muratalla is plus 210. It's slightly more lopsided on FanDuel from what I've seen. So line shop if you want to bet on this and see who you actually think will win. I agree. I do think Raymond Muratalla, if he's going to win, it's not going to be on points. He didn't look great in the Tevin Farmer fight. I know
No,
those were a couple fights removed from that, but if Tevin Farmer didn't get the point deduction late, we could be talking about that being a draw or potentially. Well, no, it would have been. It could have been a draw, but the way it was judged, Tevin Farmer didn't get a lot of respect for the work he was doing early on. Um,
and
he,
pace
he
is going to be important. Pace in this fight is going to be
that's
important because
yeah.
Andy Cruz is going to slow down that tempo. Raymond Muratalla is going to want like a higher pace. And so Andy Cruz is going to slow that down because his skill and IQ is just so good. So listen, I think, well, what is Andy Cruz by decision there? Is that a minus 120?
That is a
So,
minus
so,
120.
so not the best odds, but if you build a parlay, you could win some bread.
I think minus 120 straight up is perfectly fine. Also,
Yeah.
listen, you're not going to get that in boxing often. Like
Yeah.
oftentimes, the outcome you think is actually going to happen is like minus 400. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's not like an over under in basketball where it's like, oh, you're either going to get like minus 120 or plus 110 or whatever it is. Um, Raymond Muratalla is also inconsistent. So he looked fine in his last fight against Zara Abdullayev, who was one of the highest ranked guys for the IBF
Yeah.
in the IBF rankings for a while. Also, despite his loss to Devin Haney several years ago, where he got knocked out in the fourth round. But I think Raymond Muratalla, like he was fine in that fight. He just outboxed a dude that he was clearly more talented than. Before that, the Jesus Campos fight, like he just got him out of there in 2 rounds, and that's what he should have done against somebody who was frankly overmatched. Tevin Farmer won. Tevin Farmer's tricky to look good against, obviously,
Yeah.
and I don't think he did, but he ended up getting the win anyway. And the fight before that was Zolani Ndongene, the dude from Africa who's tough. He won that by unanimous decision, but that was also a fight where I was like, "Yo, he looks pretty beatable here." So he might have too many flaws for Andy Cruz. And then if we pull up Andy Cruz's resume here, it's a very short one, but you remember the extensive,
Cuban
yeah,
fighters, this is how it usually goes, right? Like
yeah,
they don't get to
extensive
fight.
amateur career
Yeah.
also. So first of all, you turn pro and you shut out Juan Carlos Burgos,
Very
who's like a
entertaining.
tough dude who's been in the ring with and Keyshawn Davis, I think, if I'm not mistaken, actually. Yeah, the fight before he lost to Keyshawn Davis, also by unanimous decision. For Xavier Martinez, Starling Castro, Angel Fierro, who arguably should have drew with Isaac Cruz.
Yeah.
The Antonio Moran fight, which is probably his most impressive performance up until his last performance, where he gets the fifth round stoppage. He was dominant in this fight, also down twice in round 3, and also stopped him in round 5. Hironori Mishiro. So yeah, I like Andy Cruz here. I think Raymond Muratalla is going to have like the best performance that we've seen from him, in order
He
to
has to be
really account for
perfect.
this.
He
Yeah,
has
it's
he
going to be
has to be
tough.
perfect. Andy Cruz is gonna hit him with the counter shots. Raymond Muratalla has to have a high work rate, get to the body, and hopefully the only way that I think he can win is if he continues to go to the body with that high work rate, land big shots, and hopefully he can just drain Andy Cruz's legs out that way. I just don't see that happening. I think Andy Cruz is gonna win pretty distinctively. Like I think it could be like 8-4 Andy Cruz.
I think it could be wider than that. But
Yeah.
A4 is probably
What's
also
is it a 10-round fight or a 12? It's
no,
12,
it's a
right?
title. It's title.
Yeah,
It's a
12.
title.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the thing is, like, Raymond Muratalla, I'm guessing he's not with Top Rank anymore because that was the other piece of this.
Oh,
It's like
yeah, yeah. No, he's not with Top Rank anymore.
this is
That's
a
right.
this is an Eddie Hearn card, and Andy Cruz has been with Matchroom. So to your point about people leaving Top Rank, I mean, Raymond Muratalla seemingly gone. Oscar Valdez is now a free agent. Troy Isley
Yeah.
announced that he's a free agent. He actually seems like someone that Zuffa would get. We
Troy
haven't talked to
Isley.
Troy in a little bit,
Yeah.
but we can. We could ask him
Yeah.
honestly. I'm trying to remember who else. I don't know what Bruce Carrington's doing, given that he's a ring ambassador and he's fighting on the card next week. We'll see if he gets a W there against Brandon Figueroa. Um,
That's going to be a great fight, though. I think that's going to be very, very entertaining.
yeah. Anything else on this card gets your attention as I pull it back up? For me,
No,
it's Madrimov and Omari Jones, and Nicole features good too, but
yeah. I just want to
Madrimov and
see.
Omari Jones.
Well, I'm actually really excited for the main event. I'll say that because I'm a big Andy Cruz fan, and I've always liked Raymond Muratalla. I think his trajectory for me didn't go as planned. I thought Raymond Muratalla would be way further along in his career at this point, but I'm excited for this fight, and obviously, I want to see Omari Jones because I think he's one of the most exciting upcoming fighters that everyone should have their eyes on. But Brian, should we get to some comments?
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's
do
get some
that.
comments and we get out of here.
All right, so let's go over to Jesus, who says, Shantelle, didn't people complain about DAZN being, or DAZN being on an app?
Why you
They were
like
being on an app. They were terrified of it now. People have settled into it. Listen, I have DAZN, but
have
I
people
haven't.
settled into it? People in America don't have DAZN like that.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, I don't live in America, right? I live in Vancouver, and everyone kind of has DAZN because NFL Sunday Ticket is connected to it. So if you live in Canada, you have to have DAZN to have an NFL Sunday Ticket. I'll say this though, it is more expensive now, but they also added in like NCAA basketball and football. They added in a bunch of stuff, so it's like you are getting more now. If you love soccer, that's the place where you want to go. But for the boxing part, it's kind of like they weren't supposed to charge us for pay-per-views if you bought the subscription, right? And so at one point it was cheap and you were getting all the fights and it was like, okay, this is dope. And you're getting NFL Sunday Ticket. And then all of a sudden it bumped up from like $10 a month to like $30 a month. And that is crazy to me. Like that is so expensive, especially when you're not getting the pay-per-view fights for boxing. So for me, I have it strictly for NFL and for boxing, but they're charging you for pay-per-views. But I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't think people have settled into the zone. I think a lot of people hate the zone because when I talked, no one in my life other than Shantelle has the zone. Nobody.
Yeah.
Everyone just figures out a way to watch the fights they want to watch, if they even watch the fights. Because I'll be honest with you, the people that I used to talk boxing with have tuned out the sport almost entirely. They'll tune in for the occasional like Terrence Crawford fight or Canelo fight, very occasional in the sense of Terrence Crawford because it's once a year, the annual Terrence Crawford fight that will no longer happen because he's retired. Like everyone who's in my life, like I barely talk boxing with anyone like in real life other than my friends asking me questions about what's going on with this person, or why did Gervonta Davis get arrested again, like what's his deal, or it's shit like that.
Yeah.
And then I'll get asked about like the occasional big fight or stuff like the Zuffa stuff, if they even know like what's happening. So yeah, I don't think people have settled into the zone at all. I think a lot of people fucking can't stand the zone.
Well, let me just say this: if it didn't have NFL Sunday Ticket, I wouldn't get it because anyone that watches the show knows I'm obsessed with football. I have to watch every game. That's the only reason I have DAZN, right? Like that's the only reason. I would have never gotten it. So they kind of like, and actually after football season, I paused my subscription.
As you should.
Yeah. So
now, as people do with Red Zone.
Yeah. So right now it's paused because all the games are going to be on cable anyway. So I still have cable. So that's like
Correct,
that's like the old person in me. Whatever. It's just easier to get games. So
Everyone
but
should
still,
just go back at this point, honestly.
yeah. Okay, let's get to some other
What else do we
comments
have?
here.
Slow had a good
Um,
one. I remember that we
Hold up.
missed.
He says over under 5 years, Dana overwhelms Eddie promotionally and makes him sell. I think that's what Dana's trying to do with everyone. That's the thing. Dana is trying to get everyone to sell to him. That would be the goal.
I don't know if Eddie. I don't know if Eddie would.
I would hope
Um,
not.
I don't. Eddie is the one where I'm like, I don't know. Like he can figure it out probably better than the other promoters, especially
I
because he has like the UK. Like he could just be over there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You know, it's the other ones where I'm like, man, I don't know what's gonna happen with them. Um, I don't know if Eddie's gonna sell. I think he can get out the game at some point if he feels like he's probably financially set, but I think he's determined to keep pushing along. So for the purposes of answering the question, I'll say over, but I won't say it with a ton of confidence. It's a good question, honestly.
Okay, let's get to I saw a really good comment too, and it was kind of about David Morrell, a comparison to like David Morrell and like
And
Andy
Andy
Cruz. Oh yeah.
Cruz.
Yeah, it was Jesus, our guy Jesus. Andy Cruz is another glorified amateur like David Morrell. Pillow fisted and Andy safety first. I think he's a good boxer. Um
I think he's better than Raymond Muratalla. Ultimately, like
yeah.
you can say what you want, but I think he's better than Raymond Muratalla. I think David Morrell is also legit. I just think he doesn't fight to his strengths. He doesn't box to his strengths all the time, and he didn't
They're
do it in his last two fights, and it cost him in one and almost cost him in the other.
Cuban style boxing is so different. So some find it very boring because they can play it a little bit safe. But at the same time, a lot of these guys are very skilled. I think David Morrell is a great boxer as well. And I don't always need my boxers to have power. Like, you know what I mean? I like all around boxers as well if you're
Yeah,
very skilled. So it's just kind of the style that you might like. But Jesus, you're entitled to your opinion. So, and you're allowed to leave your opinions on here. Just keep it respectful, y'all.
yeah.
Let's also get back to Alexa Alberto. Thoughts on Usyk signing with Zuffa? Also, who else would they have to sign for you guys to say game over? I think Usyk's going to retire at some point. I don't think he has to. I don't think he has to sign with Zuffa because Usyk can go make a fight and make tons of money without Zuffa. I think Zuffa is going to be a platform for a lot of guys that can't get those big fights and want to make a name for themselves. Like if we're talking about like the biggest boxers in the world, they don't need Zuffa. Teofimo Lopez does not need
The
Zuffa.
biggest ones, yeah, they don't.
Yeah,
The we mentioned Troy Isley. Now, someone like that, like honestly, if
yeah.
he signed with them, would I love it based on everything I've said on this episode? No. Would I understand it? Yes, completely. You know what I mean? I get it. Listen, we work at places where we don't necessarily agree with all the people we work with. I sure don't. If you know where I work at and where I'm at with things, but like that's part of the game, right? Like that's just part of like you have to forge your own path in life and just sort of figure it out. And you're not always going to be in agreeable spaces. We're allowing disagreements in our chat. You know what I mean? There's going to be people that watch this and listen to this and disagree with us. It is what it is.
That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think with Usyk, if he does sign with Zuffa, I feel like it would just be like a one-off or a short-term thing, like it'll be just to cash out and retire. Apparently, he was going to fight Deontay Wilder, and then it came out from Brunch Boxing that Deontay Wilder is actually going to fight Derek Chisora in April. I don't think it's not official, but like that's a report. Like it probably will happen. And the reason that's happened, the reason I bring that up is because Usyk was going to fight Wilder. It looked like, and I don't know why. One, it seemed like a bucket list thing. Like, yo, I just want to fight Deontay Wilder, bro. Like, that's that's what it
Yeah.
sounded like to me. Like, I got Joshua on my resume, I got Fury. I want to get Wilder now, but I don't know what Usyk does next. Honestly, maybe fight
Yeah.
Ajit Caballel. Maybe he fights, Wardley, but I don't think
I,
you
th-
need
I
Zuffa to do that.
I think he should just retire. That's what I think.
Wait, second
He's
part of the question. Second part of the question we chance to
Oh,
answer.
also, who else would they have to sign for you guys to say game over? I don't.
I don't know if does anyone in boxing warrant that? Like, is there anyone in boxing where I'm like, oh shit, they get this person, it's a fucking wrap.
I don't think
Like
so. Yeah, like I don't think there's a boxer where I'd be like, oh my god. they just got him. I have to see every Zuffa event. Like, nah, like I think if they get multiple guys that are big names, then that changes the game. For example, if they were to get Teofimo Lopez, Shakur Stevenson, Bam Rodriguez, Bivol, Better BF. Like if they start getting those names, then it's a problem. But the reality is those guys don't need it. They don't need Zuffa.
I agree. I agree completely.
But here's the game changer. The boxers that are going to be coming up right now that are like 12 and like those young kids that are amateurs, they're going to probably likely, because of how Zuffa's going to grow and how Zuffa's going to have control of the sport, they're going to be like the ones that are going to be looking forward to being a part of Zuffa. And then Zuffa's going to grow like that. It's not going to happen with the biggest boxers in the game right now. It's going to be a slow burn, but eventually Zuffa is going to control everything. Like if we just keep it real, Bryan.
Yo, you know what, too? Your answer is the right one for another reason as well. Zuffa, if you notice, there was a USA boxing event not that long ago that Dana White went to with Nick Khan, who's obviously one of the higher ups. I've talked about him here. He used to be an agent, like an agent at CAA, and represented a lot of big time clients like Dan Levitard and Ariel Helwani and like a lot of the broadcasters you see on ESPN. He was a very, very powerful guy in the agent space in what Shantelle and I do for a living. Now he's been with the WWE and the board and TKO, and he's also been front facing on this sort of Zuffa Boxing platform, talking about it in Rig Magazine, talk about it in different places, and getting the WWE and UFC accounts to do collaborative posts, reposting what Nick Khan, using him as a mouthpiece for what they plan to do in terms of this takeover. I say that because if they corner the market with USA Boxing, which is again what they're trying to do in creating a monopoly, if they're able to corner the market on amateur boxing and USA Boxing, that'll be more important to me than them just getting like Alexander Usyk for a one-off. I think to Shantelle, your point, it's all about, can you control the guys coming up, the youth of the sport? And if you see like all their cards look like this one, where it's like prospect, and then you're developing them as they go, and then you're getting guys who are coming in, USA Boxing, you create your own minor league system and you have them coming in, which is probably what they're going to try to do. That is more for me to say game over than anything else they could do with like top level guys who are already established, who are probably, almost on the way out, if we're being honest.
Yeah, and that's how they're going to take control of the sport. I don't think it's going to be focused on getting guys like Usyk and Bivol. It's going to be focusing on the amateur athletes that are going to be ridiculously good, and them having the path to go to Zuffa. It's about building. So they're looking at they're going to be looking at the young talent, and that's how they're going to grow Zuffa. So, and they are going to have control of the sport in like 10 years, for sure.
Less,
Bryan. Yeah, you never know. Like you just never know what could happen. But
I think it's less.
Let's get to one final comment right here. Salome, will Teo and Shakur be a snoozer? It's a big possibility. It's a big possibility. It could be a snoozer. But we are going to be breaking that down next week, and we're going to be giving you our predictions, and we're going to also let you know if we're going to be doing a post-fight show. But we will be back, obviously, next Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time. Bryan, do you think Teo and Shakur will be a snoozer?
Probably. And also, I may do a live on my channel after Zuffa, just talking about that and a little bit more on the Aliak stuff. A short one, because I haven't done one in a while. I'll probably do it either Friday night after the event or Saturday morning, TBD, if you're interested in that. So that's over on my channel. You can go subscribe. Here, we're going to be talking about this next week. There's a lot of fights we're going to be talking about next week. I do worry that it could be a snoozer, though, just because the styles. I think it could be more. I think there will be more chess than checkers, is what I'll say.
I hope not. I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to it. Bryan, we'll let you have the final words before we get out of here.
We'll see you next week.